is talk to a person or two near you. Don't need to really move desks together. You can just talk. There's not that many of you. About these first two slides that have 4, 5, 6, 7 different types of triangles. If I ask you,
putting them up then?
what?
That is close. Never mind, I didn't see them on your desk.
You're like, so I want you to take a few minutes and talk to the people next to you, and I'm going to call on people to tell me what do you think the answer is if I ask you what is the definition of this type of triangle. Yes, there's questions at the bottom. Okay, so ready, go. We should take more than like 5 minutes to do this, right? Go.
I don't want to talk to anyone. I feel ashamed.
We're going to start this back. How would you describe or define an acute triangle? It has acute angles. All of the angles have to be acute. And what does acute mean? Less than 90. All angles are less than 90, which is the definition of an acute angle. And maybe you could draw a little picture of an acute triangle. It's a cute little triangle, right? That's how you're going to like the proofs are going to be. I better not say that, but I think they're going to be teaching. Probably. All right, let's go back to this. Well, maybe I did this. What if it says 11 again? I think I did something wrong if it says 11 again. Oh, 10.
It's going to happen. This is so random.
Wait, you
This
don't,
happened with the other class.
you
It's
don't
not-
know
it'll
that it's going to be 9.
I know what's going to be next. We're going to wait. But 10, equal angular. Who's 10? You're 10. Maybe all the angles equal. That's pretty good looking at that word, right? Do you agree with that? Equal angular. All the angles are equal or congruent. And maybe if you know something else about triangles, you would even know what that is going to equal, but that's okay. We don't have to know that. All angles are equal. Congruent. Boom. I'm not going to draw a picture for that yet. All right, let's see what's next. If it's 9, I'm going to be worried. 2, see, it's random. Obtuse triangle. All angles are more than 90. Do you agree with that statement?
No.
What's wrong with that statement?
All angles.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about for a minute. Do we know a triangle? Do we know what the angles add up to? And eventually, we're not there yet, so maybe you don't remember, but some in this book they talk about it. Do you know what the angles in a triangle add up to? 180 degrees.
Yeah, that.
All right. So if we know that a triangle's angles add up to 180 degrees, let's go back to equal angular. If all the angles are equal, what does each angle have to equal in an equal angular triangle? 60, because you take 180 divided by 3. So we could even say on this one, each angle is 60 degrees. Right? Because that's the only way it could be equal angular. So then, if we're talking about obtuse triangles, it definitely has to do with obtuse angles. What is the definition of an obtuse angle again? Greater than 90. Could I have 3 angles greater than 90 in a triangle? Could I have 2 angles greater than 90 in a triangle? So, do you want to change your definition? Yeah, an obtuse triangle has 1 angle more than 90. 1 obtuse angle. So, has 1 angle that is obtuse, but since obtuse is in the word, I'm going to say 1 angle that's more than 90 degrees. And so, we could draw one. I'm going to try to draw one. Right? All right? There's really nice pictures in your book, but I didn't want to just make you fill in the blanks on these. That's how I like to do it. Number 6. Wait, that's one thing. It's going to be fun when they watch this video and I just keep going back to the numbers. Right triangle.
It has one right angle.
1 right angle. Kind of the same thing with the obtuse one. You can't have more than 1 right angle because it would already be 180, right? So it has 1 right angle, which means 1 angle that equals probably maybe the most famous triangle.
Yes.
I read about the Pythagorean theorem last night in my book for my class, and it said that although it's called the Pythagorean theorem, one, probably Pythagoras didn't come up with it, his people came up with it, and two, that many other civilizations years before that had already figured out that ratio, but no one else had published it, right? Like, but they had all figured it out. They all knew the relationship between the right triangle, but they don't get credit for it because the Pythagoreans are the ones that published it. All right. So then, what about this question down here? It says, can a triangle be in more than one of these groups? Remember this? This is a fun game. Number 5. What do you think? Can a triangle be in more than one of those things?
I don't think so.
So give me an example of two that couldn't be together.
Actually, one could be
Oh, I know, right? It's a little tricky.
angular and
Could I take one of these four words out, and then that's true that they couldn't be in the same, like they couldn't be, you know what I'm talking about? Like, which ones could be the same? What were you going to say?
well, I mean, there could be a triangle that's equiangular and acute at the same time because, all of it.
Is that true? Like if an equiangular is also an acute triangle. Is there ones that can't be at the same time? Can a triangle be acute and obtuse at the same time?
Wait, yes. No.
Because to be acute, all of them have to be acute, right? So what if, don't write on your paper like this, but if I scribbled this one out, if I scribbled that one out, can a triangle ever be more than one of these, acute, obtuse, or right? Could only be one, right? Equiangular kind of messed that up, right? So I just wanted us to think about that as we went through there. Except for equiangular. All right, so I'm not
They
looking
made
at
the instrument triangle.
Okay, what about these words?
You don't know if noticed, it goes 11, 10, then a random number, then 6, 5, and then a random number. Now it's going to go 9, 8, and then a
It's
random number.
not, it's random.
No, but look at the patterns.
It's not a pattern. Oh my gosh.
Why'd you go to your email?
I don't know, because I'm.
You're ridiculous.
What number was that?
9.
9. What is an equilateral triangle?
Not gonna
All
be.
the sides of the same length. What is that?
All
It is, I'm sorry.
sides are
I
congruent.
apologize if it is 8.
If it is 8, then it's random, but it's not a pattern.
It's just coincidence.
So equilateral, I'm going to probably, it's not going to look equilateral when I draw it. I'm going to try to make it look equilateral.
That works.
And I'm going to do this, because if I mark it that they're all the same, then that means they're all the same, right?
That's so not true.
Could an equilateral, let's think about this for a minute. Could an equilateral triangle be obtuse? Right, because if you had one obtuse angle, like there's no way the sides would all be the same. So we'll talk about that more as we go. All right. I'm struggling here.
Oh, man.
Alright.
It pretty much matters. Darn it.
Isosceles. Yeah, you're number 1. With Sydney last hour, I said it's just triangle stuff today, like isosceles, and she said, I learned that like in 3rd grade. I don't remember what it means anymore. Does anybody remember what isosceles means?
What did we say?
Oh, yeah, I got it. I think I
It's
know.
like the top 2 sides are equal on the bottom.
Right. Isosceles is where 2 sides are congruent and one side isn't. Right? So it has 2 congruent sides. So we could draw that a few ways. Emma says where the top 2 sides are the same and the bottom one isn't, which mine kind of all look the same, but I'm going to mark like that.
Don't trust pictures.
It could also be like this, right? Like these 2 on a right triangle, like those 2 could be the same. Could be an isosceles right triangle. So if 2 sides are the same, one isn't, it's isosceles.
Isosceles are so hard.
Isosceles is a hard word to spell as well.
I remember in 3rd grade.
Oh, that's me.
Teacher made up a song to help us remember how to spell isosceles.
Last one, scalene.
None of the sides are the same.
No congruent I don't know that. Those aren't
I
specific.
think that's our
It's not. We can measure it, but I'm gonna say.
Pick one of them, like,
I don't even look at triangles. It's like the exact same. I can't help it. I can only draw two types of triangles.
We can always go for that type of triangle too, whenever they decide to draw scales and they always do the middle triangle.
Yeah. So what about this one? Can a triangle be in more than one of those groups?
No,
no.
no,
Um,
big N-O-O.
I think your book says this for isosceles. It says at least two congruent signs.
Why would
That's silly to
it would
me.
just be equilateral, like it's
So I just want to say I agree that I think they're all distinct because if it's 3, it's equilateral. If it's 2, it's isosceles. The book says that equilateral is just a special isosceles because it actually has all 3. I don't think there's ever going to be a question like that, but just be aware that the book gives the definition at least 2 congruent sides. We're going to talk about the difference between a trapezoid and a parallelogram, right? Do you know the difference between one of those?
a what?
A trapezoid and a parallelogram?
Yeah.
What is it?
Well, okay, so, parallelogram, these two lines are parallel, these two lines, whatever.
Opposite sides are parallel, yes.
Trapezoid, these two are parallel, the other two are like that.
Only one side parallel. But when we get into the definition, we can talk about that. Sometimes it's a little tricky, kind of like this whole at least thing. So don't stress too much about that. I just want to let you know. Okay, so I have lots of questions for you today about classifying triangles and solving for missing sides. So as we go through these, I'm going to have you answer them on the Chromebook. Try not to jump all the way ahead to all 9 questions because you can't go back and fix it if you got it wrong, right? But if you go to Socrative is how everyone else says it. I say Socrative. But Socrative.com, I have this room number with a quiz up called, it's not really a quiz, but that's what they call them, Socrative. Socrative. You should be able to type this code in, and I just have numbered questions based on the examples, but I kind of screwed up and I don't have all of these with numbers next to them, so I try to help you. But what I want you to do is don't work too far ahead. I want you, as you get in, to answer the first 4 questions. And it's multiple choice. You just have to say, is it acute, angular, obtuse, or right? So we can just check and make sure that we're all on the same page before we move forward here. But
What's the code?
so let me know if you need help on there.
All 4 or just 4?
All 4. The first 4, and then we'll check before we move on.
So do we submit answer? Like,
Yeah, and it'll tell you if you're right or wrong right away. Hopefully I did it right.
Yeah.
But it'll tell you if you're right or wrong. I was going to do one where you had to type the answer in, but if you type it anywhere different, it says you're wrong, and I didn't want you to have a fit about it, so I just made them all multiple choice.
so you just want us to go to number 4?
Yeah, just go to number 4 and stop for now, and you can just leave it up. Like, you can even keep it up if you want. If you want to write on your notes as well as we go through the answers, you can do that, so that you have these as notes to look at as well, as we do these. And then I can pull it up. I won't put your names on it, so in case you miss something that you won't be made fun of.
I'm so smart.
Does everybody have the number ready? Is it okay if I go away from this? Oh, no, look at the answers. Okay.
I got them all right.
I'm just kidding. We're not finished.
Anon, it says, right? Right,
Okay.
there's still some people answering.
Two people are stupid.
No, we don't say that. It's easy to just pick the wrong one. Don't be rude.
Makes me sad. Seriously, I miss that.
Chandler, stop.
Maybe it was Chandler. Wasn't me. It wasn't. You're just doing this to make yourself feel good.
So there's some on your homework like this, right? This is good homework, right? But you just have to remember, like I think number 1, maybe if you miss number 1, maybe you just jump the gun and you just click the acute on there, right? Because that is an acute angle. But if we're giving the most specific name, because they're all 60, you really should have said equiangular, right? Because that's the one one that could be more than one. So that one I think is the easiest one to miss. But then the other ones, right? This would have to be obtuse, right? Acute, because that's not equal angular, right? Everybody okay with those? Anyone have a question on those? Oh my gosh, look, someone jumped ahead.
Oh, well, we know what the answer is. Thank you. Good job, Anon.
Good job, Anon. I can look right now. Look, all I gotta do is click this.
God.
Way to go.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and select that.
Stop! Just listen to me for a minute. This is why we don't use these as often as we should, because why we can't have nice things. Alright, the next two are on this same one, right? So there's two problems here. So they're going to give you more complicated pictures, right, than those first ones. Pictures within pictures. And it also says explain your reasoning, which on the Socrative here with multiple choice, you can't explain your reasoning, but you need to be able to justify. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to write a whole proof for it, but you need to be able to explain why you say that's true. So classify XYZ as acute, equiangular, obtuse, or right. Saw the answer already. And then go ahead and do the second one if you haven't already. If point Y is the midpoint of the X and WY is 3 units, I classify triangle VWY again as equilateral, isosceles, or scalene. And be ready to explain your answer. I might choose a random number. So tell me when you're done with that.
How many numbers of questions do we do?
Just 2 more. So you just do number 5 and number 6.
So we just.
Are we done with these 2 yet?
We're just second one.
Okay. And notice that if you remember from chapter 1, when you name a polygon, you name it by its vertices. So a triangle has 3 vertices, so that's why you name a triangle by the 3 points, or where the 3 line segments meet together there. Okay, everybody answered the next 2. Has anybody not followed directions and went past the next 2? Has anybody passed number 6?
I answered number 6.
Has anyone answered number 7?
No, I'm on number 7.
So did you answer it?
I'm on number 7.
If I put that up there, is it going to be up there?
No, you didn't. What another thing?
Number 7. Hopefully Anon didn't screw up.
Oh, look, how amazingly everyone got number 5 right.
Well, someone didn't answer number 6. Now they got the answer.
So, it is a right triangle, so who wants to give me, do you want me to do the pick a number? I like this, pick a number. Number 11. Why would you say that this is a right triangle?
Because at angle y is 4 degrees and 50 degrees, and that's 90. So that's right.
That would be a right angle.
Just have to check the line if it's there.
We could really do, like if we were going to prove this, right, proof, we could do the good old angle addition postulate and say that angle XYW plus angle WYZ, right, adds up to the whole thing. But I'm okay if you just say at angle Y equals 40 plus 50, which equals 90, right? I'm okay with that as an explanation. It doesn't say prove, it just says explain. So what about this one? It says point Y is the midpoint of VX. So that's telling us that these 2 are congruent to each other. And that WY equals 3 units. So what did you say about angle or triangle VWY? I think the answer there was scalene, right?
Correct.
And what would you say the reasoning is? How would you explain your reasoning on that?
Well, if you divide 8,
What are you doing?
well then you get all your sides thrown on.
Alright, so if you divide that by 2, you would say that that's exactly what?
I don't know. 4.2.
4.2.
I'm lucky I still got that right because I did the entire triangle.
You are lucky. So again, a really easy way to say, you could go through the sides and say each side is different. One side's 4.5, 4.2, and 3.0, right? Those are all different. So, no proving today, just explaining. Okay, so then this one's kind of just like that one. So what are we on? 7? 7, and then look at number 8. I'm going to just see if you can do this one before I go through it with you. So number 7, again, classified, kind of like what we just did. And then number 8, can you find the measure of the sides of this isosceles triangle? So they're telling you it's isosceles, so you got to figure out which two sides are the same to do that, all right? So I'll give you a few minutes to do that.
Oh, I see what I did wrong.
You'll get the next one right, because the next one makes up for this one, right? But don't check it yet, right? So the next one is like another one just like this, so if you miss this one, you can get the next one. That's really it for today. We're almost done, because there's not that much to do today, but that means you'll have enough time, hopefully, to get your homework pretty much done in here. Hopefully that means a really good homework place tomorrow.
Yay. I'm set that up.
I'm kind of happy for myself. I made up these answers, and I was trying to pick good ones that people would like. Because sometimes it's hard to pick good wrong answers. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not happy you missed it, but I'm proud of my answers. Like, that it tricked you. So how about when you get both of them answered, you somehow give me a signal so that I know that you
I
like
seriously don't know.
put your pencil down. So we'll just I say just take your best guess, and then that way we can talk about it.
Yeah,
It's not really for a grade.
yeah, but it's so
It's for
satisfactory.
check for
It
understanding.
is self-satisfaction. It's terrible. When you miss one, it hurts.
Yeah, it really does. Like, I'm so scared that we're like 2 minutes.
I know when I went to the Cascade, there was a class taking a real quiz on this, like on Socrative here, and I was like, I wouldn't like that as a student or as a teacher, because as you're taking the quiz, you know what you're missing, and then you're gonna get freaked out if you miss too many, right? Like as you miss one, you're gonna be like, ah, and then you're gonna be like crying by the end of it. And so I was like, I wouldn't want them to know if they missed it until the end. Like I would want to wait till you submit it before I let you see if you missed it, because
Let us,
it would freak you out as you go through it.
let us have a little hope before we
Right.
bury
I
it.
figured out how to, like, I did it the long way. I plugged in, like, all the numbers, but I still
Oh, like
went
you worked
wrong. I
backwards.
forgot to look at the sides.
Is anybody, are we still working on this? Yes?
Oh.
Oh.
I don't know.
I just picked.
I don't know what number 8 is. I don't know how to do it.
Just pick one.
Well, just plug in the numbers. Like, plug in.
Right, you can work backwards. That's why I wasn't going to make this a multiple choice, because I was like, people can just work backwards, but you're not going to be able to do
And then
it.
you
Try
know
turning
on
off
the
your
sausage
computer and
which
turning it
are
back on.
equal, so.
Number 9 yet.
Not number 9 yet.
That
Only
works.
number 8.
That works for me.
Are we
Hey,
there?
got candy corn as Yeah, that's cool.
All right, I'm just going.
Magic. Pick that one.
Wait. There we go.
I'm just looking at it.
Just wait for the answers.
I know. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not for a grade, so it's for me. So if it's blank, that just doesn't do anything about it. Let's see how we did. So number 7. Again, they tell us C is the midpoint of BD, classified ABC as isosceles, equilateral, or scalene. So 3.4. What's half of 3.4?
Apple pie.
1.7. Is that true? So we know that these two are the same. 1.7 is not the
I
same.
thought I misread it. I said ABT, so.
So you did the whole thing, yeah.
Apple.
So I think it's got to be isosceles, because they mark these two as the same, but 1.7 is not the same as that, right? Okay, so now the algebra stuff. Find the measures of the isosceles triangle with base KL. So they're even telling you, if it's the base, they're telling you the side that's not equal. If you looked at the picture, which I know we can't always trust a picture, but these two, right, if KL is your base, then that means these two are the same. If it was not multiple choice, if you know those two are the same, can you just set them equal to each other? Right, that's how I did this problem. So I said 4D minus 13 equals 12 minus D. because isosceles means they're equal to each other, those two sides. And then I just solved that. So I added D, and I added 13, and I got 5D equals 25, so D equals 5. And then they asked you for the measure to the side. So hopefully when you plug that in, you get these two are the same. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 minus 13 is 7. 12 minus 5 is 7. 7 plus 6 is 13. So what answer was that? C? B? I don't know. What was the answer? Did I do this wrong?
5 plus 6 is 11.
Yeah, it is 11.
11. I did 7. Sorry. I said 7 plus 6 because I took 7. No, you're right. Sorry. I could tell there was some confusion by that. I just plugged 7 in there because I was an idiot.
Right.
But D is fine. 5 plus 6 is 11.
Okay, I make that mistake.
I think it was B. Was B the answer?
Yes.
So, on your homework, the majority of it's not going to be multiple choice, so you don't want to just be going guessing and checking to do that. You want to be able to set it up. So look at the next one. Do number 9 if you haven't done number 9. It says, find x and the measure of each side of the equilateral triangle ABC if AB equals 6x minus 8, BC equals 7 plus x, and AC equals 13 minus x. And try not to just reverse check, right? Forget that it's multiple choice for a minute and say, could I do this if it wasn't multiple choice? And pick the right answer.
Boom, I got it right on the first try.
First try, there's no second try, so there's not really, there's no second and third or fourth try.
Have you answered yet?
The answer is
Why do you want to do that?
I don't know. I just have nervous habits.
good. Like, I'm really ooh, a hexagon.
Or we're gonna have chicken.
Oh, I don't like my stomach. It's like,
So on the last problem, the isosceles, it mattered which two you said equal to each other. What about the equilateral triangle?
nah,
Does it matter which two I said equal to each other?
nah.
They're all equal to each other. So you could set this equal to this, or this equal to this, or this equal to this, right? It doesn't matter. So Chandler, what'd you do?
I put 6x minus 8 equals 7 plus x, and I solve for x.
So 5x equals 15, x equals 3. If I was guessing and checking, I mean, if I was just randomly guessing, I would have guessed C or D because they both have the same x values, right?
Well, now
And then you just plug it in, and they should all be the same. So 13 minus 3 is 10. 7 plus 3 is 10. 6 times 3 minus 8 is 10. So C is the right
I don't
answer.
think she actually did that math. I think she just said it. So I got my homework at
18 minus 8 is 10. It's still 10, right? So, questions about that?
Should I log out?
You may log out.
Of the Chromebook or just out of
You're done with the
so
Chromebook.
creative?
You're done with the Chromebook.
So creative.
So this is your homework. It seems like a lot, but a